Hello and welcome back. I had one more product I wanted to review from Bendu Armory here, and that is this. Now, I'm not real sure exactly what they're calling this. It's kind of like a quillion, but it's basically a short neopixel blade that they sell, 7 inches long. Now, before I go too far on this, I know exactly what this looks like. You're probably thinking it too, but don't get one of these and then leave it around the house without a saber or without it being in a saber, because that's really going to make things awkward for your house guests. But once you get past that, what you're dealing with is basically you're dealing with a short, less expensive neopixel blade, the type that you'd usually see in neopixel quillions for a cross guard, but sold separately. The reason for this, it's kind of limited. You can put it into a something like the feldspar Shoto here, and you have a neopixel lightshank. Or you can just have it like this, because sometimes having a full-length blade makes it harder to display your sabers if you're not using them as much and you're having them out for display. That's another use for this. The whole light dagger thing I think is sort of a minimal use. The display thing makes sense to me. But where this really comes in handy is somewhere where you wouldn't expect. If I take this out and I'm using something like the Adamite staff, what I end up with is, if I've got the short blade in this end, and I've got more of a two-handed size. This is I think this is 28 inches, something like that. I've got a more standard size blade in the other end. The end effect here is that I basically have a saber with a pommel spike, or a contact saber. Now, one of the things I talked about when I talked about the Adamite staff was that because the weight is shifted towards the ends, this thing works really well as a contact staff. Okay, you can still get that effect and actually use it as a contact sword if you're using one of these things. I mean, you could just stick the other pommel, or sorry, the other chassis in the other end and just not turn it on. Okay, that would work too. But if you actually just, if the idea of not using the electronics on the other end offends you, you can get a small blade like this, and then you've got something that still has the balance roughly towards the middle. It does shift towards the side with the blade a little bit, towards the end here. But if you get used to that and you treat this as your point of balance, you can actually do contact sword moves by using this as the butt spike, more or less, of the... it's a terrible way to think about that, especially with what it looks like. But you can actually use this as a pommel spike. That sounds a lot better. Pommel spike to a contact saber. So, interesting idea. It's nice to me to see that somebody is offering this, because it gives you the ability to use what would be intended as a staff as more of a contact or long sword. These are less expensive, they're nice for display, and they use a lot of the same craftsmanship that Bendu Armory uses on their other stuff. So these are all custom saber shop parts. This is a Plecter Pixel connector, and they're pretty well installed. So, not for everybody. Uses are a little bit more limited, but an interesting addition to the market. I'm glad somebody's making these, and there you have it. I'm not real certain what to call this other than a small blade or a light shank blade. So there you go. Hopefully this has been of use. If it has, join me back for more reviews. See you next time.